The white man is a master of propaganda and manipulation. And he, as the youngest man in the world, has convinced the oldest man in the world that you are nothing without me. One of the greatest victories of white supremacy in the past 1,000 years was that they have convinced people that they are, in fact, superior to everyone else. And one of the reasons African people are not doing better, we believe that the white man is better. For the past 60 years, approximately, global white supremacy has reinvented itself so that it operates through the blackface.
Oh, God.
So you're talking about the global black bourgeoisie as being the gatekeeper for the systemic inequalities that exist throughout the planet Earth. So you look at the continent of Africa. Africa produces more than 50% of the most critical natural resources of the world. Right. Africa has a monopoly on certain critical resources. America consumes more than 25% of all of Africa's resources. So you're looking at 5% of the globe is eating a quarter of the continent's wealth. So America is the vampire of Africa, make no doubt about it. With that being said, the black bourgeoisie, being the gatekeeper, has to be exposed and destroyed en route to exposing and destroying white supremacy. In other words, you can't get to the house unless you first deal with the guard dogs. Whenever you try to break into a mansion, it's the dogs that you got to contend with first. If you don't get them dogs, you can't get into the house. The dogs of white supremacy are the international black bourgeoisie elite. They're in Africa, they're in America, they're in the UK. They are well financed, they are well paid, and they are well positioned. Which is why I always say there has to be an intellectual civil war globally for African people before there can be a physical war against white supremacy. You have to first expose and replace the black bourgeoisie gatekeepers or nothing will change. Because racism is psychological. It's psychological. So if you look at the African independence movements, in many places, we overthrew the white man physically, but we never overthrew the white man intellectually. So the leaders who took over after the fall of colonization had the same mind as the white man who ran colonization. Right. You see it in Africa today, where the structures are still European. The approach to government is still European. Most of your African constitutions were written by Europeans. They're not African-centered. Those are white man constitutions. You see, so we have to understand it's not just the removal of the person. You have to remove the culture and system that that person created. Africa has still not yet gotten rid of the culture of white supremacy. Black America still has not yet gotten rid of the culture of white supremacy, you see. And we have also not faced the internalization of the European that we all suffer from. Because all African people have the white demon inside of us. It's there because you're raised with a worship for white people. So you have to exercise that spirit of European supremacy that lies within inside of us. It's that spirit that has black men from Africa to Atlanta chasing white women like they're the greatest thing since sliced bread. You understand? It's the reason why as soon as we get a good education, we want to move to a white suburb. You understand? It's the reason why we want to bleach our skin. You understand? We want to imitate. African people as a race, we suffer from European imitation disorder. European imitation. We want to imitate white folks, and we do it better than white folks can. Barack Obama was a better white man than any white man you can find. He out-white man the white man.
Facts.
And so in order to get rid of that spirit, it goes back to education. Let me say this. My ancestor, Frederick Douglass, for whom the school is named, he said, it is better to raise strong children than it is to repair broken men. It is better to raise strong children than to repair broken men. The problem with the global African liberation struggle, the crisis of pan-Africanism, is not that the white man is still in charge. That's not the crisis. The crisis is we're not even thinking about changing the fact that he runs the planet. That's the crisis. Black people, Africans, we are comfortable with second-class global citizenship. As long as I can have a Mercedes, a white girlfriend, a cell phone, a doctorate from Oxford or Harvard or Yale, as long as I can have the trinkets of white civilization, I don't care if the white man is in charge. That's the problem. Slavery and colonization took away from the African the natural desire to control your reality and your destiny. Think about it. When you see Arabs coming to Africa, when you see Indians coming to Africa, when you see Chinese coming to Africa, when you see them coming to New York City or Los Angeles or Washington, D.C., when you see them going to London or Jamaica or Haiti, what's the first thing they do? The first thing every group does is erect a community of their own. It's natural. It's the first thing they do. They buy up a block, they buy up a neighborhood, they buy up a section of the city. They build their own business, they build their own school, they get their own hospitals, their own manufacturing sector, they create their own jobs. Why is it that everybody does that except black people? We're the only people who don't naturally do that first. Some of us do, but as a race, the first thing we look for is a job from white people. The first thing we look for is acceptance from white people. And let me be clear, one of the reasons we are still not free, politically or psychologically, one of the reasons we are still not free, politically or psychologically, is because we're still thirsty for the approval and validation of white people. Well, I got news for you. No group that wants to be free will ever achieve freedom as long as they are psychologically dependent on the people they gotta fight for their own human validation.
Doesn't make sense.
The white man is a master of propaganda and manipulation. And he, as the youngest man in the world, has convinced the oldest man in the world that you are nothing without me.
Man, and I think I agree, because even like the short time I lived in Nigeria, the curriculum was a British curriculum. And in Nigeria, in a lot of African countries, I think there is this notion that whatever is from the Western side is better. Whatever is from England is superior. And, you grow up with that. And I think, to your point, that the people that are there, the teachers, the politicians, they all have that representation that, whatever is from, the British side especially, because that's who colonized Nigeria, that's the most superior thing. And even when you're in Nigeria, your goal is to leave, to go to America. The goal is to go to England. These are the
not South Africa, not Ghana. It's just let's go to London.
You're taught to go to these places because this is seen as the land of milk and honey, which is funny because Nigeria is so rich in natural resources. You would think that would be the land of milk and honey. But my question to you is,
Europe has almost no natural resources.
I know.
And it definitely doesn't have any of the critical ones.
Right.
But it is the mindset.
Right.
It is the consciousness that the white man has created for African people that has us still
I know,
subservient to him. We still want to be like him and imitate him. One of the greatest victories of white supremacy in the past 1,000 years, one of the greatest victories was that they have convinced people that they are in fact superior to everyone else. And one of the reasons African people are not doing better is because many of us, deep down in our core mental system, we believe that the white man is better. We believe it because you're taught it. You cannot grow up being fed a steady diet of white Jesus. It's impossible. This is why white Jesus is so dangerous to black children, because of you are fed white Jesus. Your Savior, your Lord and Savior is a European.
Right.
Then you will automatically believe that all white people are divine in some way. Because if God is white and God is all powerful, then all white people must be powerful, which helps explain why the white man runs the planet, which helps explain why the president is white, which helps explain why the UK at one time colonized more than 50% of the known world. A little island saw it necessary to dominate more than half of the entire planet. It's okay to believe that the Roman Catholic Church is the paragon of religious authority, and it's all ran by white folks if you're being raised to believe Jesus is white, because the brain is a creature and a slave to image. Images run the mind. I don't care what you teach an African child about how great we are. You can tell them we built the pyramids. You can tell them we're the first ones to chart the galaxy. You can tell them we're the first ones to travel the universe. We're the first ones to smelt iron. We're the first one to create a code of ethics. You can teach them all that book knowledge and then put a white Jesus in front of them. Guess what will be the most impactful? All those words they read was a picture. It is the picture. And that's one of the reasons why wherever the white man goes, he likes to build statues of his great men, because he knows those images are powerful. That's why when you go to Brazil, the tallest statue in Brazil is a white Jesus. You go to Cuba, the tallest statue in Cuba is a white Jesus. You understand? The reason those Jesuses are all around the African world is to serve as a constant apparatus to program the African child into believing no matter where you go or what you do, the white man is still God. If you do not break the psychological chain, if you do not break the psychological chain, you will break nothing else. Until you change the way African people think about themselves, their potential, and their enemy. Yourself, your potential, and your enemy. Until you change that, you change nothing else. There must be a psychological revolution before there's an economic revolution. There must be a psychological revolution before there's a cultural revolution. There must be a psychological revolution before there's a spiritual revolution. If you don't break these chains that are on the African mind, then you break nothing else. Change the mind and the body will follow. But if you try to change the body without changing the mind, that body will end up once again in the hands of the European.
Tell your kids to go to back to school night. When your kids go to the Black History program, tell them to stand up and tell all their white classmates and white teachers, I'm not from Africa. I was already here. I am a Native American. And then the white folks are going to say, which reservation are you associated with? And you're going to say, North Philly, South Central, Baltimore, DC, Atlanta.